In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Today, our topic under the discussion is analysis or critical analysis of the play The Pillars of Society by Henry Gibson. Ibsen is considered as a realistic writer because due to his naturalistic studies of human life in his days, he kept a critical eye on the public and private life of society to expose morality. His search for morality made him controversial figure and center of criticism. To see the condition of society, he switched over from poetry to play and become a harbinger of immortality of his days. He dedicated himself to finding out and exposing immortality that prevailed not only in individuals of particular town or country but in the world as a whole. By feeling the need for social reformation, Ibsen took upon himself the trouble of writing the social plays, The Pillars of Society. This play is the result of his tireless efforts of 2 years and appeared in the year 1877 before audiences and readers. Thus, in this manner, he was able to produce an excellent piece of perspicuous writing which remained the best work even for the next 2 decades. The Pillars of Society focuses on ironic idea which explains that those who seems to be the pillars of society are rebels, while those who appear to be rebels are in reality the actual carriers of the spirit of truth and freedom. This play figures out such so called pillars and simultaneously demands accountability. The title of the play, Pillars of Society itself, portrays the serious yet satirical aim of this play. There are three women characters in the play for whom Rowland's ideals have no fascination. Because they know very well that society they live in is also the home to hypocrites. They live in the society they live in also the home to hypocrites largely who hide their ugly faces behind the masks of morality and idealism. These three women have presented as the rebels. Now let us discuss in detail who are these three women. First, there is actress daughter Diana, who wishes to flee at a place where she can distance from criticizing eyes and harsh tongues that constantly point at her family because of her mother's disgrace. Her desire to live freely can be seen when Joan returns from America and Dina inquires about the state of people living there. Now let us go to the dialogues from the text. Dina. Now Dina asks a question. What I wanted to know is if people are so very so very moral over there? John. Moral? Dina. Yes, I mean, are they as proper and well behaved as they are here? Now see that by asking such type of questions, critical questions, here it does not mean the actual good behaved people, but it means that she is going to criticize the society of which she is part. It is not only Dina, but readers also can feel the pain she is facing in society, which is inhabited by the people who are so very moral and proper, because such people want others to be proper and perfect at any cost. It means that, as this is common saying, that we should not only find faults from others, but we also look into our inner self in order to find out our faults. In other words, we can say that the best way to understand oneself is to find out your own weak areas before criticizing others. The second free woman in the play is Aunt Maratha. She has already surrendered her happiness and wasted her life in conforming to Roland ideal of womanliness, and she earnestly advises Dina not to commit that folly but to break her engagement with Roland. It means that Dina was engaged with Roland, who was a schoolmaster and claimed to be one of the pillars of society. Why? Because he tried his level best to follow certain ideals. So now, because of this, Maratha suggests Dina for breaking up her engagement with Roland and elope promptly to America, as she too believes that the skies are loftier than here. A freer air plays about your head. So these are the actual words which have been picked up from the text of the play. Elope promptly means that you may run away from the society for America, and over there she will find herself entirely free. Maratha advises Dina to free herself from cruelty of customs and ideals, and this will help her in remaining true to her own self, and only then she will be able to develop her individuality. Otherwise, the morals of her own society will crush her personality. It means that if you want to improve yourself, then you should move to some other society, and in this way you can improve yourself. The third is naturally free woman, and free woman is Lona Hessel, who has shaped her fingers at the current principles all her life. And it is her presence that at last encourages the deceiver, Barnick, to break with the ideals by publicly telling the truth about himself. In other words, we can say that it was Lona Hessel who pressurized or forced or compelled to Barnick to confess the truth. Lona has a definite purpose in the play. Her aim at the end of the play is to help Barnick to find the old Barnick who dared to be in love with Lona. It means that some 15 years back, Barnick was not the same Barnick as it is today. Why? Because in those days, Barnick was a young man, and he was very loyal or sincere in his dealings, in his love, and in his behaviors. But now, when he has become a pillar of society and he has accumulated money, and when he has developed his business, then he started to live such type of deceitful life in a society. So Lona wants him to be the same Barnick as he was some 15 years back. When he returned home, he betrayed that love in order to ensure his own financial and social standing. Disloyalty and deceit have since served as the uncertain ground which he has based his role as a formation figure in the society. It means that in order to achieve the highest position in society, Barnick has entirely changed himself, and he has changed from simple man to a tricky person. So here Lona Hassel wants him to be the same simple and trustworthy person as he was some 15 years back. The focus is on the individual. Individual means the liberation and the revival of the individual. The focus is on Barnick, who is both pillar and product of his society, of a community of people who have been young together and have matured or gone rotten. Now see, now it is up to you that either you may remain mature. Mature means that you may polish your abilities and may be true pillar of society, or you may let yourself to be gone rotten. Ibsen, like Dickens, paints society as representative of a large and diverse ranging number of social tensions, with the prime objective being to strike a reformist balance between individual and society. The play, The Pillars of Society, represents the oppressiveness of a small town life. Ibsen sees the play as a kind of web of small town life, and he writes. What he writes? He writes, there is a significance underneath, something symbolical, the liberation from all narrow conventions. It means that all the people who were living in the towns, they were in the web of conventions, and they were not free to do whatever means they liked. A new, free, and beautiful life. This what the piece turns on, the matter and these interests to be illuminated from all sides. Why Dina want to migrate from a small town to USA in big community? Here, the comparison between a small town milieu and bigger communities like America is well presented in the play in order to highlight the impact of such communities on the people living there. People living in bigger communities are freer and happier than those living in small communities. The Americans are freer because they are not slave to the old, dead customs and conventions of the society. Their society is not the society of hypocrites, but of natural people. Lona and John are the healthy, natural people whom Ibsen contrasts with the hypocritical Norwegian stay at home, and they associate themselves with Dina, who is also troubled by hypocritical morality of the place. John and Dina desire to leave for the newer and freer world of America to follow their fortunes. Society cannot tolerate their happiness. Dina suffers because of her mother's past life though she was not guilty of anything on her part. We have already discussed in our previous class that now see that Dina is an innocent girl, but her mother didn't possess good character, so that's why whatever she is facing in such type of so-called good society because of her mother's bad character. Otherwise, there's nothing means anything negative on the part of Dina. So Dina suffers because of her mother. Society cannot tolerate their happiness. Dina suffers because of her mother's past life, though she was not guilty of anything on her part. John suffers because of the guilt of burning enforced on him by this pillar of society. It means that John was also innocent. He was not involved in any type of theft, and he was not also involved having illicit relations with the lady, but he accepted both the means guilts or crimes on his shoulders in order to maintain the honor and respect of Bernick. To the Norwegians, large is practically synonyms with wicked or good or great. They profess to be shocked by unscrupulous, or in other words, we can say unprincipled practices of foreign businessmen, whereas their own dealings are not quite honest. The projected railway in case in point. When the original project of laying a line along the coast threatens the material interests of the town, the leading businessman mobilized sentiment against it by making a high moral issue of keeping out undesirable element, and they have no difficulty in suppressing or crushing the plan. But the moment the railway, now built to run island, looms as a potential source of material prosperity, the keenest or the strongest business brain of the town. Keenest or strongest business brain of the town, Bernick shakes his whole financial existence upon exploiting the situation, knowing that he can secure the eager backing of local capital by agreeing to division of spoils or loots. As for the official spokesman of morality, who has been opposing the project with professional pathos, has accommodatingly falls in line with the altered views of the patrons on being tipped off as to which way the wind is blowing. Bernick's confusion. Bernick's confusion strikes at the root of Ibsen's moral philosophy, the need of will to put an end once for all to self-deception. Now see that now let us conclude the discussion, and certainly we are at the end. So now see, we will certainly discuss such type of most important points at the end of it. At the end of a critical analysis. Burnick's confession strikes at the root of Ibsen's moral philosophy. It means that when at the end of the play Burnick confesses, then it means that Ibsen's moral philosophy certainly has been achieved. And that is the need of will to put an end once for all to self deception. Ibsen believes that the inner revolution is necessary only when the individual can see eye to eye with the truth and can move ahead with new spirit. It means that, for example, when any individual in the society who wants to bring certain type of drastic true change in himself or herself, then certainly this is the one of the greatest step in one's life. Ibsen makes it unmistakably clear that the sinner's exposure by outward means is of no value. It means that if you correct yourself outwardly, it is useless. But correction must be inwardly. Benrick knows very well the crooked ways of society. He knows that there is no firm ground beneath his feet. It means that, as we call it, that lies or lie has no legs. It means that those people who always tell lies don't find any ground under their feet. But whatever he does in order to conform to the morals, customs, and opinions of the society. But he had no courage to oppose because society could not tolerate opposition. But finally, towards the end of the play, he had the courage to oppose and make others also aware. Now, see, it is quite difficult to profess oneself in public and to admit one's faults and follies, and also admit that he was following the wrong track. But in long run, it is in the best interest of society. We know very well that individuals constitute society. So that's why Ibsen's whole focus of attention is an individual. When individuals are certainly correct, or when they are strongly followers of the values, then certainly society will be the same. But finally, towards the end of the play, he had the courage to oppose and make others also aware of the true nature of society. He alarmed the multitude by saying, "What I charge myself with is that I have so often been weak enough to resort to deceitfulness, because I knew and feared the tendency of community to spy unclean motives behind everything prominent man here undertakes." Ibsen does not want to see Burnick unmasked by force. It means that you cannot force any person to remove the mask, remove the mask of deception, to remove the mask of insincerity, to remove the mask of lies. But a man must try his or her level best inwardly to be sincere, trustworthy, and truthful, because that would not have transformed his inner self. It would simply have been adding one more found out crook to the ranks of hypocritical society. It means that, for example, if you force any person to change himself, then on the basis of your force, your authority, your power, and your fears or your threats and etc., he may change himself outwardly. But that is not called a change. the changes that when you awaken, or when you awake his consciousness, or when you motivate him to to bring great change inwardly, that will be certainly beneficial not only for individual, but it would also be beneficial for society. So I think that it is enough for today, and I have tried my level best to critically analyze the play, the pillars of society, and also hope that you will understand it. And if you find any difficulty, as usual, I always welcome you to ask me questions. And feel free to ask me questions. Thank you very much for your time.